572-0215. Rev-Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Up next, Doctor in the House with Dr. Leonard Suraj, brought to you with the compliments of La Place Salazar, Ultramat, Susie's Variety, and Tapio Hospital.
At Tapio Hospital, caring and competent obstetric consultants will see you safely from prenatal care through delivery with a team of excellent pediatric and anesthetic support. Tapio Hospital, where the patient safety comes first.
Junek will come in and we'll have a ball. Saltfish and herring and mackerel and all. These are a few of our favorite things.
Mais qui côté nous kay twape se bagay sa la?
Susie's Variety. You better believe it.
At our Border Wash branch, we're open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and in Vieux-Fort, Monday to Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
All stores are closed on Sundays. So saltfish and herring and mackerel and more. Susie's Variety is just the store.
Looking for a one-stop shop for all your grocery and household needs? Look no further than Ultramat. We stock a variety of options from the world's leading brands, all at affordable prices. Whether you're looking for fresh produce, pantry staples, or household essentials, we've got you covered. And that's not all. Don't miss out on our ultra specials and promotions for a chance to win hundreds of dollars in vouchers, hampers, and special prizes. Visit any one of our 4 convenient locations today or check us out on our Facebook and Instagram page. Ultramat, your one-stop shop for all your grocery and household needs. Shop smart. Shop Ultramat.
It's delicious.
La Place Salazar is the true home of quality meat and deli products, selected and priced to suit every palate and pocket. We sell all cuts of meat, poultry and fish, from tasty lamb necks and succulent pork chops to lean dolphin and juicy top round steaks. Our deli items include turkey, ham, bacon, pork sausages, meat patties, chicken nuggets, deli ham and eggs, so that breakfast or that party is a breeze. And for your added convenience, we sell restaurant essentials and grocery items. So where's your next meal coming from? La Place Salazar, of course. La Place Salazar, Castries, Groselet, Vieux-Fort, and Soufrière.
It's delicious.
It's now time for Doctor in the House, live on Rev-Up St. Lucia 95.9 FM with Dr. Leonard Suraj. Dr. Suraj, good evening. It's good to see you again.
Good evening, Andre, and good to be here again.
Welcome.
And I am asking the listeners to and viewers, if you are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Today, 14th of October, Tuesday as usual, 2025. Welcome to Doctor in the House. I have with me a specialty or a topic I have not discussed yet since I've been doing that program, and that's about pharmacy, pharmaceuticals, etc. And I'm very happy that this particular gentleman, Mr. Dudnath Shivanot, if I get it slightly wrong, but you'll forgive me for that, but certainly he's a retired pharmacist, a multi-talented man, and he's even into some kind of comedy, etc. And we were just talking before we started the program and how he is very much enthusiastic about discussing things like post-retirement life, etc. So it's a topic we may have at some point. But certainly I would like to ask the listeners and viewers to welcome this gentleman. And again, Dudnath, welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Suraj, and good evening to everybody out there, listeners to the program and viewers. A pleasant good evening to everyone, and thank you for having me.
And welcome to Rev-Up, Shiv.
Thank you, Andre.
Yes, you're welcome.
Right, so we're talking about diseases, medication, to highlight some of the misconceptions that we may have. First of all, I would say, all medication is to cure a disease. So what's a disease? Well, basically a disease is a condition that affects either part of the body or the whole body and prevent it from functioning normally. That is the easiest explanation I can.
Can you repeat that, Dr. Suraj?
It is a condition that affects the many or a single organ or part of the body and prevents the body from functioning normally, or prevent the organ from functioning normally. So a disease doesn't have to be an infection. It can be a cut, it can be a paralysis, it can be many things. So the organ that is diseased cannot function properly. And most of the time, these diseases are reversible.
Mm-hmm.
So you may ask me, well, what causes disease? And I would respond and tell you, it can be trauma, it can be infection, it can be growth, what we call neoplasm, which is basically cancers and non-cancerous. Because there are some non-cancerous growths that can give you as much problem as a cancerous one. They may be squeezing on organs that are important. For example, you may have a thyroid in your neck and what they call goiter, and it can be, maybe it's not cancerous, but it is growing and squeezing your windpipe and choke you. So it doesn't have to be a cancer, but all these are disease conditions. And disease can also be caused by nutritional issues, and some people are born with it, what we call congenital. So there are some diseases like cerebral palsy and this kind of thing, you're born with it. And there are conditions that are happening because of lifestyle and drug-induced. So there are many things that cause disease. But the commonest type of disease happen to be infection. And she will tell you that I'm sure during his prescription, a lot of time he's dispensing some kind of medication to deal with an infection of some sort.
Mm. And just before you introduce Mr. Shiv, the medication that the doctor prescribes, is it supposed to cure the disease, or there are times when that is just not the case? It may be to ease a problem, right? And would the doctor tell his patient beforehand whether the medicine will heal or maybe just assist with your symptoms and so on?
Okay, Doc, so let me hear you.
Okay, well, Andre, to answer your question, the answer is all of the above. Why? When a medication is prescribed, you have different classes of medication, right? There are some that would be used over a short-term period, like an antibiotic over a course of time, and that should get rid of your infection. There are other conditions that are chronic, that you cannot get rid of completely, so you're on medication, sometimes in many cases for life, to maintain a healthy status. And there are some, of course, that are preventative. And if we talk about lifestyle a while ago, if you pay attention to lifestyle and we pay attention to preventative medicine, to me, that's the way that we should focus our attention now, because there is no magic bullet for anything. People tend to believe that they go to the pharmacy and that's the solution to the problem. But no vitamin, no supplement, nothing can replace a healthy lifestyle.
Very true.
And healthy lifestyle, if I should continue, healthy lifestyle encompasses a number of factors. The things you eat. If you constantly feeding your body with processed food, for example, if you constantly ingesting excessive alcohol, if you lack of sleep, a lot of people suffer from insomnia, the inability to sleep, which can be due to a number of reasons. The uncomfortableness of the bed, the room, which is very hot these days. A lot of people can't afford AC, noise around the environment. But as a person, as an individual, you need a certain number of hours of restful sleep. Some people, it differs depending on the personality. For example, myself, if I get 5 hours of sleep, sometimes that is sufficient for me in the sense that of that 5 hours, sometimes 3 hours of that 5 or maybe 4 hours of that 5 is what they call deep REM, rapid eye movement sleep. And that is enough time for the body to repair and stuff. So a lot of things contribute to it. Healthy lifestyle must be, you avoid chronic stress condition. Stress is a number one killer, and people don't, silent killer. and we tend to focus on infection and other condition, but stress. And in today's world, that is so prominent. I will leave it there for now, and as we continue, but just don't want to.
You don't mind if I call you Shiv? That's easy.
Everybody call me Shiv.
Right,
That's
everybody.
right.
Yeah. Every topic you have mentioned so far has been a big topic that can be expounded on.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, the sleep, the food you eat, etc., and the amount of quality of sleep that you receive. All these are extremely important factors. And
precisely,
there are these set of chronic diseases. They say chronic because, as I may have mentioned before, chronic doesn't mean it is terribly bad or it is severe. It's ongoing, long ongoing problem. It's a chronic problem.
For example, high blood pressure.
Right, high blood pressure. Because these things develop most of the time either to less extent genetic, but to a larger extent our lifestyle. And strange enough, our culture is such that it imposes a very dangerous lifestyle to us. There are a lot of sugary stuff we eat. There are a lot of salty stuff we eat. There is a lot of fatty stuff we eat. And so all these, and there are a lot of roasted stuff we eat, because the hydrocarbon, burnt flesh, burnt meat, is one of the causes of cancer, especially bowel cancer. And therefore, we have to be careful what we eat, to exercise moderation, and never forget, no matter what lifestyle you have to add some exercise to it.
And Dr. Suraj, may I butt in there too?
Anytime
we talk about input, what we eat.
Yeah.
And equally as important is output.
Yeah.
Right? Now, very little attention is being paid to defecation. And defecation is such an essential part of our health. Because when we defecate, we excrete the solid waste, we excrete toxins, we excrete indigestible things that we have ingested and that cannot be digested. And would you imagine if that build up and the toxins builds up, or some of these toxins get reabsorbed into our system? What can happen? I always like to use the example of a car. If the exhaust is blocked, think about the consequences of it what can happen with the engine, So defecating is so important for the whole digestive process, for gastrointestinal health, and people don't really pay attention to that.
In fact, it's rarely ever discussed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's like when I remember hosting a Doctors In program. I was telling Dr. Suraj earlier when we met, and I was speaking precisely on that topic. And a very good friend of mine was working at American Drywall. When I came out and he met me, he said, "Man, I enjoy your program. It was a really nice program." I said, "Yeah, well, you listened to the whole program?" He said, "Yes. But you know what? You were talking a lot of SHIT." So it's
and he listened to all.
And he listened to all, And in fact, I didn't want to say it, but now that you've added that part, and I turned to him, I said, "You listened to the whole program, man. You must be a TOILG." But it was good banter. It was frivolous. It was joke. Yes. My friend. But the fact of the matter is, when we defecate, persons don't really look back. That for some reason, persons don't really look back. If you look back at what you just passed, there's a lot of indication there that a lot of health issues that can be detected from just what you just dropped there. The color, for example, it should be of a light brown.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. The texture. Your feces should be of a consistency, a semi-solid consistency. I would say like toothpaste, that kind of consistency. It shouldn't be too hard, because when it's hard, you strain, and when you strain, you put pressure on the hemorrhoidal vein and the anus, and you can develop hemorrhoids and all other condition. You should never be going hard. And every time you have the urge to go, you should go. And you should develop that habit of going, like at least every morning when you get up. As soon as you get up, 5-10 minutes after, if you have to take a hot beverage or a little lukewarm water, whatever the case might be, but you need to go every morning when you get up. And if you can do that, and you can have a semi-solid consistency, then that is an indication that you're in good health. Blood, for example, if the stool is very dark, If you see a very dark stool is an indication there is blood there, but stale blood, and that's an indication that something is not right in your stomach. You could have stomach bleeding, all kinds of different stomach conditions.
Right.
If you see fresh red blood, for example, that's an indication that bleeding is happening lower in the digestive tract, large intestine, anus, and
the
these
rectum,
areas,
yeah.
rectum, and that kind of thing. So looking back and paying attention to your defecating habits and so on is equally as important as to what you put in.
I'm glad you said that, because, as I said, this is a topic that is rarely, if ever, discussed. Yeah, nobody really talks about it, and I guess for obvious reasons. It's a little embarrassing talking about it. Yeah. So I'm glad you
But if you
brought
give
that
it
up.
a medical treatment, it doesn't seem so bad, you know. And also, when the stool looks very pale, clear, and you see it's floating, it means that there is a problem with the bile production, because the color of the stool is because of the bile, and which is generated from the gallbladder, from the liver, because the liver is a major detoxification center. Oh, that is the lysine, which is the factory where it detoxify, and part of the detoxification is that it is running the bile, especially the whole hormones, etc. And the bile being stored in the gallbladder is being thrown out into the duodenum, which is the second part of the intestine, and gives it the color it has. So some people who may have pancreatic cancer, where the head of the pancreas, where most of the cancer is formed, usually the bile duct runs through it. So a cancer of the pancreas can give rise to obstruction of the bile duct, and all of a sudden the stool get pale, and it floats.
And the floating also is an indication that could be a lot of fatty content there too.
That's right.
Fat floats, yeah.
That's right.
So, Dr. Suraj, I think this is a topic you should have separately. Again, devote an entire hour to that one.
Yes.
I mean the excretion.
Yes, because as Shiv is saying, it's very important.
Because the digestive system and intestinal health and everything in one.
Yeah. And you must always, after you wipe, look at the paper, because sometimes there will be a streak of blood in there which you would not have seen.
Also, I can even detect parasites as well.
Right. Yeah.
Like worms and helminths and worms and stuff like that. Yeah.
So the excretion pathway, in fact, we're going to deal with it at some point in here, when we're going to deal with medication, etc. But yes, the things that cause these diseases are infection, what they call microbes. That's a very large term, but it's the small microorganisms. And the microorganisms have been divided into several subtypes. For example, there's bacteria, because not all infection is from bacteria. There's bacteria, there's fungus, there is viruses common. The smallest one is the virus, extremely small, you don't even see it. Bacteria is a little bigger, and the fungus, if you don't know what fungus is like champignon, they call it in Patois. So you leave a piece of bread that's wet on there, and after a few days you see the thing growing on it. That is fungus growing on. Fungus is present everywhere and grows on everything it can find. So fungus is always there.
And I'd like to add, the reason why they call it microorganisms is because they're generally unicellular organisms. One cell is capable of functioning on its own. And we have an entire body of millions and millions of cells. But these microorganisms are capable to can form themselves into a spore. And that spore, they can survive really, really harsh condition for years, like the cholera. The cholera disease, for example, they form themselves into spore and they stay there for years, and as soon as they get water content and fresh water content, they burst and they start to develop and grow. And so if you get a microorganism in your body, it's not a problem. And as a matter of fact, as I say that, it just triggers something. Our body is loaded with microorganisms.
That's right.
In the gut, in the skin. Every part of our body is loaded with microorganisms, and they are those that provide useful functions. But when it becomes a problem is when they get into the system, they overcome the body immune system, and they start replicating and multiplying and develop colonies and stuff. And very often, persons would have an infection and they would be able to deal with it naturally with a natural immunity, and their own body would fight and they can overcome it. But there are cases when the potency or the strength of the bacteria or the infective agent is so bad and your body inability to fight, then is when you have to resort to the antibiotics and these different kind of medication.
That's right. Very well put. So the advent of antibiotics has virtually changed the world. And the first set of antibiotics that was discovered was by a gentleman called Fleming. He discovered penicillin. And that has changed the world, in the sense that people no longer die so early from bacteria or other diseases, and they're able to live a much more fruitful life. So antibiotics and penicillin has actually prolonged people's life. And as society developed and medicine developed and more medication, so basically you develop a series of antimicrobial medication. And to put it in perspective, the antimicrobial are like antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, and we were mentioning earlier on, even for worms, antihelminthic. So all these are medication that are available to help the body fight the infection. And I'm sure, go ahead.
And to add to that, as you mentioned Fleming and the advent of antibiotics, just to understand, we are comfortable where we are, but when we look back historically and understand where we came from, you probably would have heard about in the days of the plague, right? The plague. As a matter of fact, I read something, I'm not too sure how authentic it is, but I read about, you see, when you sneeze, people say bless you, right?
Yep.
I read something at the origin of that. The origin of that was in the days of the plague. It was so easily spread, like how, well, people remember COVID, how fast COVID spread, right?
Right, yeah.
In those days, when you sneeze, it was a respiratory transmission. You sneeze and a droplet catch the other person, is a death sentence.
Yeah.
There was no treatment, so that was a death sentence. So when somebody sneezes and they fail to cover their mouth or something and you right next to them, they say bless you, because it's like a death sentence for you. That's how bad it was.
Bless you. I hope you don't die from it. That's what it is. So, I've heard that.
I heard it. I've read it too. So, but like I said, the authenticity of it, I cannot vouch for it.
Yeah.
But coming back to the anti-infective agents, yes, that's why they say anti. The prefix anti means against.
That's right.
So that's why we call it antibiotics against bacteria, antifungal against fungus, antiviral against virus. And then what is important, like, is the load. And I explained earlier about how they set up an infection, and when it becomes so potent that the body cannot handle it again, and then you need to resort to the treatment, to resort to the armory, to arm your system, help your system to fight with the antibiotics and the antiviral and whatever the case may be.
Yeah. So therefore, we as doctors would have, say you come with a cough. It means that the lung is irritated somehow or the other. Whether the problem is from the lungs or from above the lungs or below the lungs, meaning that from the stomach or from sinus and throat, whatever it is, it's affecting the lungs and you get an infection. So we as doctors would have looked at the possible type of germ that cause it, the most likely antibiotics that will work. And then we write a prescription on that basis. If we are in doubt as to what it is and we can hold back treatment, then you do a test to test with in the lab what bacteria. Otherwise, we send a prescription to Shiv.
Yeah, maybe it's a good time for me to kick in here again.
Right.
Well, you'll have to hold your thought, Chief.
Okay.
Just for a second, we have to go to our sponsors. This is Doctor in the House, live with Dr. Leonard Suraj on Rev-Up St. Lucia 95.9 FM, brought to you the compliments of La Place Salazon, Ultramart, Susie's Variety, and Tapia Hospital.
Tapia Hospital Radiology Department offers 24-hour service. We provide you with X-ray, CT scans, and ultrasound imaging using the most modern equipment that produces the best images for your medical attention. Call the Radiology Unit at 459-2201. Tapia Hospital, where the patient safety comes first.
Junek will come in and we'll have a ball. Saltfish and herring and mackerel and all. These are a few of our favorite things.
Mais qui kote nou kay twape se bagay sa la?
Susie's Variety.
You better believe it.
At our Border Wash branch, we're open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and in Vieux-Fort, Monday to Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
All stores are closed on Sundays.
So saltfish and herring and mackerel and more. Susie's Variety is just the store.
Looking for a one-stop shop for all your grocery and household needs? Look no further than Ultramart. We stock a variety of options from the world's leading brands, all at affordable prices. Whether you're looking for fresh produce, pantry staples, or household essentials, we've got you covered. And that's not all. Don't miss out on our ultra specials and promotions for a chance to win hundreds of dollars in vouchers, hampers, and special prizes. Visit any one of our 4 convenient locations today or check us out on our Facebook and Instagram page. Ultramart, your one-stop shop for all your grocery and household needs. Shop smart. Shop Ultramart.
It's delicious.
La Place Salazar is the true home of quality meat and deli products, selected and priced to suit every palate and pocket. We sell all cuts of meat, poultry and fish, from tasty lamb necks and succulent pork chops to lean dolphin and juicy top round steaks. Our deli items include turkey, ham, bacon, pork sausages, meat patties, chicken nuggets, deli ham and eggs, so that breakfast or that party is a breeze. And for your added convenience, we sell restaurant essentials and grocery items. So where's your next meal coming from? La Place Salazar, of course. La Place Salazar, Castries, Groselet, Beaufort, and Soufrière.
It's delicious.
Welcome back to Doctor in the House, live on Rev-Up St. Lucia. Dr. Siraj, it's back to you.
Thank you again, Andre, and thank listeners for staying on while we have our short break. The number to call if you have a contribution or you would like to add to the flavor of what we are discussing, you can call us on the fixed line at 572-9710, or WhatsApp, you can shoot us a message at 287-0971. So, back again, I have with me in studio Shiv, who is a retired pharmacist, and he many other things as well. But we were discussing medication and treatment for for bacteria, etc. So basically, I was saying that there are different types of microbes. There are bacteria, virus, and things like fungus infection. Fungus tend to grow slower. Bacteria is in between, and virus is much faster. A viral illness happens faster, but the fungal one takes a little longer for it to grow. And all of the different areas have medication specifically suited for that. So as I was saying earlier on...
Just to disturb you for a second,
Yep.
we have a call. Are you taking calls now? Or?
Yeah, I can
Yeah?
take calls.
Okay. I'm sure you have to use the headphones. They're right there.
Hello.
Okay.
Good evening, Andre. Good evening, Doc.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And
Welcome
good evening,
to the
Doc.
program. Yeah.
Thanks for accepting my call.
Okay, so let us know.
Dr. Suraj,
Talk to me.
can a virus be considered a disease?
Yeah, because a disease is anything that prevents your body or prevents an organ from working properly.
Okay. And my second question, Dr. Suraj, I can say I put all doctors under the same umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
When I go and see a doctor and they write the prescription I have to take to the pharmacist.
Pharmacist, yeah.
Okay, why don't the doctor write the prescription that I won't say writer, but print it, that at least I can read what he write there.
That's an interesting
Somebody
question.
can read what he write there. Because the way he writes, they'll say, patmush. I don't believe anybody. Only the pharmacist can understand that. So you don't believe the time has come that when the doctor is writing the prescription, at least they have printed, they have at least write it away that somebody can read it. I can tell my daughter, look, read that for me. Yeah, I'll listen over the radio.
That's a good question, callers.
Okay.
So maybe Dr. Suraj, you can start by giving the history of this practice.
Yeah, because this practice is an old practice where the doctor, having evaluated the patient and have proceeded to write medication or write a prescription, the prescription is a letter to the pharmacist, not to you. It's a letter to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist would know the name of the medication. So if you write prednisone, and even though you don't see the last zone and you see the dosage, the pharmacy would have no difficulty in figuring out what it is. Usually the practice of medicine has been such that when you are learning, when you are studying to do medicine, there is never a time when the lecturer will stop for you to write. So you have to write as they talk. And therefore, the handwriting when you start off in medical school may be quite excellent. But by the time you've gone through 5 years and maybe 10 years of thing, that handwriting is not the same. But it contains the essential ingredients in the prescription so that the pharmacist knows what you're talking about. The doctor's responsibility is to tell you what he's given you in words and make you understand, but he's not writing that little note for you. However, as medicine evolves, things become institutionalized, and then it is written through a computer. And as a result, it is typed. And even in St. Lucia, we have that. Maybe sometime I have seen typed prescription from the Grizzly Polyclinic and other places. So it happens. But the fact that the doctor writes a prescription which you don't understand is not intended to hide it from you. And that is, and once you trust the process, then, because the doctor himself may make an error, the pharmacist, and we had not mentioned the role of a pharmacist, but the pharmacists have a tremendously important role in ensuring that whatever the doctor prescribed is actually the correct dose, the correct medication, and if he is in doubt, he calls the doctor. So the patient himself may not, even though you don't understand what is written, it really wasn't for you. You would like to add something there? I'm sure you have seen a lot of...
Yes, Dr. Suraj. Well, let me say this. Like you said, it's a communication from the doctor to the pharmacist. Sometimes information, you have to be careful with information. Too much information is just as bad as too little information. And sometimes the technical information that is communicated between the professionals may not be intended in all instances for the knowledge of the ordinary patient. Granted, there are different levels of patient, and people want to know, and I guess medicine is evolving, and in time, like you mentioned, in time, some of these things may change. But you will find, for example, patient information leaflet versus a technical information leaflet that is intended for the professionals. Sometimes I've seen customers and patients look at an insert that you find in the medicine box, in the box of that
little pamphlet.
The little pamphlet, that's right. And they go berserk. You see all these side effects. You see that the doctor want to kill me. I don't want that. I'm not taking that. Right. But if you understand the legal implications, when these drugs was going through the trials and before they become marketable, is that they're legally bound to state all these side effects, even though 1 in 1,000 person may have suffered from that side effect during the trials. There's an obligation for them to list some of this, and they have some different standard depending on how potent the medication is. So so the point I'm trying to make is that not all information is some are intended for the professional and some are not.
And the areas, small areas like we write 1/7. That's 1 day out of 7. So,
Yeah.
so 1 day means 1. And this is the little notation. And you write 1/52. That's for 1 week. 1/12. That's for one month. So these things are not
little codes and so to speed up the process.
To speed up the process and make it more accurate.
A lot of these things have originated from Latin. In those days when medicine evolved, a lot of what you see in that prescription is Latin. There's a Latin origin to a
That's
lot of
right.
it, yeah. Not necessarily English.
Like 3 times a day is TDS.
Yeah.
Twice a day is BD. And 4 times a day is QID. So these are, and it has this Latin origin, as Shiv is saying. And so it is not intended to hide it from.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I hope the caller is satisfied with that,
with that
explanation. Yeah, because I think what he's saying is that with the changing world and so on, is it still necessary to be writing in that fashion?
Well, again,
but you made a good point, Dr. Suraj. You said that as long as the doctor explains to the patient what they're going to be getting on that prescription, well, then there's no need to know what you've communicated, because it's only now I'm understanding, certain things you just said there. It's just done in such a way that it's kind of short. I guess it's a small piece of paper, really, which is the prescription. When you're writing that prescription on that piece of paper, it's a short, small piece of paper, and then you're trying to save space and all that kind of stuff. I'm just imagining that's what's going on.
Space. Sometimes you're in emergency unit, for example, and you're trying to get somebody to overcome and survive a situation. You can't have the time to write to be given intravenously.
Yes.
That takes a lot of time. You just put IV, and the pharmacists know what IV is, IM, intramuscular, and these little abbreviations.
That's right.
Well, it was a good question.
Yeah.
I think so.
I understand where the caller is coming from too, and I can see that in time to come, who knows, they might be more explicit as we go along as to whether the time and the resources are available. And so if you have a prescription with a lot of items on it and you have to write over everything word for word in English, it can be tiresome, it can be cumbersome, and so you don't want to have a whole text as a prescription when it can be done in a précis format or so. But who knows? You never know how things would evolve.
But I think
I can see the point.
You and Dr. Suraj gave a fair enough explanation as to why it's done that way. I'm satisfied with that.
Okay.
Where I'm not satisfied, I'm dissatisfied, is the level of privacy. And I'm sure you've heard that, Shiv, many, many times. How the pharmacy is, quote-unquote, constructed. Where, especially now since COVID, prior to COVID, you could probably go as close as you can to the pharmacist and whisper something. And you have people on a line after you, okay, almost breathing over your neck. And you want to say, well, something that you don't want people to hear. I find there's a problem with privacy here with our pharmacies. I'm sorry, just hold your thought for a second. Even when the pharmacist now is addressing the patient and basically saying what's going on, how you should be taking this medication twice a day and this other thing, that's that. So the thing is, it's not private. It's not private.
Especially if it's something you have to insert. Something that is private.
Exactly.
And you wonder who's behind you watching.
Yes. Shiv, don't tell me you've never heard that complaint before.
No. I know. I'm not in denial. I'm not going to be pushing back against it. But I'm happy that you mentioned COVID, because prior to COVID, we had a very interactive, customer service-oriented pharmacy practice, if I should say that. Because you want people to see you at the same level. Long ago, the pharmacists used to be on a stage. We have broken that barrier. We are same level with the customer.
That's right.
And when you come to a private pharmacy, for example, we have this customer interaction and stuff. However, I must also point out that there is a counseling room. When it's something of a personal nature, we take you into a counseling room. However, what I find happening here, and not only here, in many countries, the impatience. I mean, we consider these persons coming with a prescription as patient, but the impatience that they exhibit is bewildering sometimes. You will go to a bank and you will stand in a line and you will wait for hours and they will say nothing for their money. Here is a case where your health is concerned and your life is is at stake here, and people don't have the patience to wait. They're they're irritated when you take extra time trying to counsel somebody and make sure that they understand the medication properly. Our role as pharmacists is not just to dispense medication. We are experts in the medication, and therefore we need to also educate. We have to ensure that it's a safe, efficient use of this medication, and also we have to focus on misuse of medication. So all aspects of the medication, we have to deal with that, including education, patient counseling, and so on and so forth. However, because of the nature and the workload, when you go to some of these pharmacies, there are times when you might have a lull period or so, especially when sometimes I go to some of massive pharmacies and I will recognize the number of people there waiting for their prescription. If you have to, as a pharmacist, take time off and pull that one into the counseling room to explain that you have to put this intravaginally or interrectally and then come back to attend to the others, the people get impatient and they start to quarrel, So, but yes, but I do agree with you. But the way the pharmacies are designed, they cater for these situations where if you can determine. Sometimes when you try to explain to some patient, I know already, just give me my thing and let me go. They're always in a hurry. And so it's a kind of dilemma we are facing. It's not that I do agree with you. Certain things should be treated. Confidentiality is an important aspect in any form of medical practice, whether it be at a pharmacist level, a doctor, the nurses. Confidentiality is of utmost importance.
And Shiv, as I was saying, COVID didn't help because we put up these barriers and we never took them down. They are there, and you have this glass thing. It's all over the place at the banks, at Lucilec, at Wasco. Imagine you coming in there. I was at Wasco some time ago, and somebody has this long outstanding. It's a lot of money they owe Wasco. The person is coming, and you hear this conversation, and they're separated by this glass thing. There's not even some. Normally you have a little hole, some holes in between. Nothing like that.
Of the voice,
right? So now you have a situation where you have a patient. Now you. As you said, they're counseling this patient, and you have to be speaking a little louder because you have this wall, with this barrier.
And there's a psychological thing, you're not reaching the person.
Exactly. So it could be the response you see or you're getting is that I don't want people to hear my business, so let's go and give me my thing. Yeah. So these walls didn't come down; they just stayed up. I think maybe the institutions that kept those things, maybe they figured, well, hey. Just in case you have another pandemic, we don't have to build this again.
And public health is at risk because the thing about infection, and we've experienced it in COVID. It's easier to talk about it now because everybody would have experienced COVID. The thing about infection is spread so easily, and you have. I know there's a particular pharmacist suffering from a certain medical condition and autoimmune condition and different immunosuppressive medication and stuff. And that person cannot afford to get infected. So that person, would gladly have this glass wall around it for her to maintain her, to keep that barrier from all getting infected. So there are instances like that as well. But yes, I do agree. In fact, I've seen some pharmacies where they put the glass about 6 inches from the edge of the counter.
Yes.
And that was done for a particular reason because they don't want people to rest their bag there. I went there finding it so uncomfortable to rest a little book I have in my hand to get into my wallet, and it's so uncomfortable. And then I remember, I now realize the reason why. Because there are times when even your bag could have carried the germs. They want people to rest their bag and stuff like that. so yes, that's what COVID has done to us. So many things has become norm.
Yeah.
The new norm, like they said, not necessarily good customer service.
Right. And there's no barrier. When I say barrier, let me explain. As to the closeness that another patient can stand or is supposed to stand before the one who's at the counter with the pharmacist.
The spacing between them.
No, there's no space. It's like you decide how close you want to stand next to that person. So there are certain instances where somebody, maybe they wouldn't come with a prescription, but they want to get your advice on something. As a pharmacist, I have a slight cough. Is there something you can help me with? Or maybe some other thing which is much more extreme than that. And we have this private discussion, and they just can't with you because everything is just open. So just food for thought.
Well, while we are at that, one of the things I wanted to discuss was the role of a pharmacist, especially in a developing country where the pharmacist has a multiplicity of roles. We mentioned the time that is taken to actually dispense, because the pharmacists have an advisory role. Maybe you can explain that more. And they have facts checking role, because when the doctor prescribes, they have to look at it and see if that medication should be taken twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, just in case there's an error somewhere. So I find the pharmacist extremely important and a tremendous support for our healthcare to ensure that the final product, because everything translates at the end of the day to the pharmacy, ensuring that what they give you, the right medication, the right dosage in the right form, because medication can be given, as we said earlier on, through the vein, it can be given through the muscle injection, it can be given by mouth as a tablet, as a capsule, it can be given as a liquid, you name it. And therefore, the pharmacist must ensure that whatever is the doctor writes is what is being given, and even perchance the doctor, because all of us can make an error. Even when the doctor makes an error, he would call you and say, look, did you really mean that dosage for that patient? And they're very nice and polite. They say, but he's only 16 years, you know. So you know. But I think there's a part of the role of the pharmacist, and that's why it may take time, is the facts checking that they're doing as well.
Yeah, well, as you want, on the aspect of rule, like I said earlier, it's it's to ensure the safe, effective and responsible use of medication. In addition to that, we have a role to play in educating the public. We have a role to play alongside other healthcare professionals, because it's a team approach, a team effort. We all have critical role to play, and we all rely on each other, like you've said. And so, for example, let's take, we spoke about antibiotics.
Just to disturb you for a second. Yeah. We have a call.
Hello, just hold your pointer. Hello, good evening.
Hello, doctor.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Let me hear your contribution.
Yeah, that's to the pharmacist.
To the pharmacist, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. If a doctor prescribes a medication for a patient and the pharmacy doesn't have this medication, can the pharmacist give another medication, that he figure can work in place of what the pharmacy doesn't have?
To answer the question, yes, but not without the consent of the doctor. Now let me elaborate a little. Right?
I'll give somebody else. I'll listen on the radio. I'll give somebody else.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So let's say, for example, we know that medication is not currently available on the island. Then we would call the doctor and says, Doc, so-and-so is the case. Would you like to give an alternate? Now, medication falls into different groupings, right? So when you don't get a particular name, it doesn't mean that that's what you have to get. And if you don't get that, all hell break loose for you. There are so many other different alternatives that the doctor can order. In addition to that, the name that the doctor put on the prescription might be a branded name. So we have what they call trademark or branded medication, and we have what they call generic medications. So you will see on the government prescription from the public sector, for example, you will see at the bottom of your prescription, substitution permissible. What that is actually giving us, the pharmacist, the authority when you have a public sector prescription, to be able to replace a brand name with a generic name, with a generic medication. And the reason for that is that, and the reason for that, I was trying to jump the gun. The reason for that is, in small countries like ours with lack of resources, the brand name medications are very costly. And that is as a result of the fact that they have gone through trials, and there's a lot of investment that goes before a drug actually reaches the market. It goes through years and years of trial and a lot of investments, and these drug companies obviously would want a return on investment. So they have a patent on that medication which lasts for a number of years, and within that patented period, they are allowed to recoup some of their investments or perhaps even profit. So as a result of that, branded items that just come onto the market, like let's do Viagra, one of the most recent, right? It would have been very expensive in the beginning, and when the patent expired and the generic products are available and a lot cheaper. So you'll find that these public sector organizations, the government in these countries can hardly afford to stock up with branded medication. It's too costly, and 90% of the medication you find on the market are generics. And so therefore there are certain doctors particularly would want their branded item because they have achieved success using these branded items. But when it is not available, then we will let them know, and then we can substitute a generic medication instead.
Yes, she extremely good explanation. I'm really happy with that one.
In fact, let's just take it a little step further, Shiv. When we hear about these generic medications, are they just as effective?
Very good question, Andrea. I'm glad that I'm getting an opportunity to throw some light on that. Now, let me start by saying there's a proliferation of generic manufacturing houses around the world. And not all the generic companies are up to standard. I'll be the first to tell you that because I was involved in procurement. However, the onus falls on the pharmacist at the helm of that organization that is doing the procurement of medicine. We would go by experience. We will go by best practices that obtains around the world. We might go by registration of products around the world. We don't have to invent the wheel. We can see what is happening around our region, different countries in the Caribbean, and we would know over the years. For example, let's take a product like 7C's. 7C's product has been on this market for over 150 years. Nobody can deny the cod liver oil and the quality of these medications for a company to be around for that long, you know. So there are many other companies like that we have dealt with over the years. Like Apotex is a generic manufacturing house out of Canada. When you see something coming from Apotex, when you see something coming from Ranbaxy is a company in India that manufactures for even Pfizer. A lot of Pfizer, that's the home of Viagra. Pfizer is one of the biggest drug company in the world, and many of those products are manufactured in India under license from Pfizer. They only have the packaging Pfizer, but everything is being done there. So the generic houses, not all. However, having said that, to give a little picture, one need to understand that generic medications are supposed to be just as effective as the brand medication, as long as you get it from a reputable source. Right? Now, bearing in mind that the potency of any medication would have, let's say, depending on how potent the medication is, the efficacy would vary between a 3 to 5%. So when they do the assay, or what they call investigation while you are making the product, in-house testing, quality control, and these things. When they do that testing and they find out, let's say this thing says 5 milligram of a drug, you know, when they do the testing and the quality control and things, it will be plus and minus, let's say, a 3% margin of error. So if you have 97% of that 5 milligrams in the product, it's passed. You know, so some manufacturing houses does not have the external and internal quality control as it's supposed to be, and so therefore we need to be aware of that. And my advice to people, you see, people tend to want to go on the internet and buy every damn thing. Don't risk it with your medication. Something that you have to ingest internally. You want to take it with a little gadget in your house, that's fine, but don't risk buying medication on the internet, because you cannot be certain as to the quality of this medication.
So let me have a follow-up question. So how do we, is there a watchdog, right? Some organization which ensures that the people who are tasked with procuring those generic medications, that they, as you said a while ago, get those medications from reputable organizations. Who's guarding the guard?
Well, in St. Lucia, we have a Pharmacy Act that governs the practice of pharmacy and regulates the practice of pharmacy. And there's a pharmacy council in place as well. And the pharmacy council is tasked with that responsibility to ensure that products that are coming onto the island, and as a matter of fact, when we import medication, we have to send that invoice to the pharmacy council for approval and stuff like that, right? So that's how it happens here in St. Lucia. But in other countries, they're probably a little step ahead of us, in the sense that the medications are first registered in the country, and you have to go within that list of registered medication. And for you as a manufacturer, if you want your product to be sold in that country, you have to come through the channel and get your medication registered. Do all the GMO, good manufacturing practice, the ISO standards and everything, provide all the paperwork, all the documentation, and have your medication registered, and then you can start selling through whatever agency you choose to.
Very well done, sir. I think that's very educational. What I would like to add to it is that just like medical schools, etc., they are working towards accreditation of manufacturers. So there are some manufacturers that have met minimum standards, and there are some that may not have met it. Now, what she is talking about is purely private sector aspect of procurement of medication. The OECS have a OECS PPS, which is the procurement of medication. And I think they go through an elaborate process of identifying quality manufacturers. So they may have some expertise in identifying who's good, who's not so good, and so forth and so on. And you must meet some minimum requirements. So there is some kind of classification.
And we piggyback, I forget to mention that, as you mentioned.
Okay.
We actually piggyback on the PPS and those organizations that, like I said, best practices. We have a history to go by, we have experiences, and so we actually use that as a guideline as well in the private sector. Okay.
Well, I think we have...
Yes.
The way you look at me, I think it's time for me to...
Yes.
So listeners and viewers, thank you very much for listening and making your contribution towards the program. I also wish to thank Shiv for being around and putting a new dimension and very informative discussion that we have. I hope, as I usually say, I hope that we can do another program
Precisely. I wouldn't mind. Just let me know, and I'm ready. Whatever topic, not necessarily health, but it can be social aspect as well. I mean, I like to get involved in different aspects and share my ideas and stuff. So thank you for having me, and thank you to the listeners, and hopefully we'll be back soon.
Very much so. Okay, thank you, listeners, and have a good evening. And Mr. Andre Paul, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Siraj, and thank you so much for your service, and thank you, Shiv, for taking the time to be here with us this evening. Okay, this has been Doctor in the House with Dr. Leonard Suraj, live on Rev-Up St. Lucia 95.9 FM. Join us again next week, Tuesday, same time, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. for another Doctor in the House, brought to you the compliments of La Place Salazon, Ultramart, Susie's Variety, and Tapia Hospital.
At Tapia Hospital, we operate a 24-hour emergency service for all your urgent healthcare needs. Our qualified medical specialist will be on hand to ensure that you receive the best of care. Call us at 459-2617. Tapia Hospital, where the patient safety comes first.
Junek will come in and we'll have a ball. Saltfish and herring and mackerel and all. These are a few of our favorite things.
Me ki kote nou kay twape se bagay sa la?
Susie's Variety. You better believe it.
At our Border Wash branch, we're open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and in Vieux-Fort, Monday to Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
All stores are closed on Sundays.
So saltfish and herring and mackerel and more. Susie's Variety is just the store.
Looking for a one-stop shop for all your grocery and household needs? Look no further than Ultramart. We stock a variety of options from the world's leading brands, all at affordable prices. Whether you're looking for fresh produce, pantry staples, or household essentials, we've got you covered. And that's not all. Don't miss out on our ultra specials and promotions for a chance to win hundreds of dollars in vouchers, hampers, and special prizes. Visit any one of our 4 convenient locations today, or check us out on our Facebook and Instagram page. Ultramart, your one-stop shop for all your grocery and household needs. Shop smart. Shop Ultramat.
It's delicious.
La Place Salazar is the true home of quality meat and deli products, selected and priced to suit every palate and pocket. We sell all cuts of meat, poultry and fish, from tasty lamb necks and succulent pork chops to lean dolphin and juicy top round steaks. Our deli items include turkey, ham, bacon, pork sausages, meat patties, chicken nuggets, deli ham and eggs, so that breakfast or that party is a breeze. And for your added convenience, we sell restaurant essentials and grocery items. So where's your next meal coming from? La Place Salazar, of course. La Place Salazar, Castries, Rosalie, Beaufort, and Soufrière.
It's delicious.
Rev-Up St. Lucia is located at Unit 4, Gablewoods Mall, Sunny Acres, Castries, St. Lucia. Tune in on 95.9 FM or online at revupslu.com. Call the studio